Lesson 13 is called Climax of the Covenant, and it's basically the title of the part 2. This has been the story of the covenant, and we've got to see from Adam to Noah to Abraham to Moses to David to the prophets, we've seen this progressive covenant relationship. God wants to be our God, and he wants us to be his people. He wants this relationship, and that's what covenant's all about. And everything that flows from that, if we're in covenant relationship with him, then there's got to be faith following God's grace. There's got to be obedience following God's commands. This is how it works. But God has been sovereign, and this book and these lessons that are adapted from the book, it's called Our Covenant God for the reason that God has been a covenant God from the start. And that just means he wants personal relationship with you. He wants to be united with his people. And we call this last lesson really is just an introduction and a bridge into the next series. And it's the focus on Jesus and how Jesus, we call Jesus the climax of the covenant because he's the climax of this covenant story. And at the very first lesson, we kind of come full circle to a little exercise that I suggested in lesson 1. And that was to read Matthew 1 as if you're reading it for the first time. It introduces us to Jesus, but it also introduces us to this realization that Jesus shows up as kind of not just the end of a long story, but the climax of that story. That story has been pointing towards him, almost begging for him from the very beginning, from Adam's sin forward. And I like this idea of climax, this climactic, because it shows how the story, it's one story. When the very first verse of the Bible, this is the generations of Jesus, the son of David, the son of Abraham. All of a sudden, we have this covenant story in view. The word covenant doesn't even appear in Matthew 1, but the whole story of the covenant is embedded right there. Even it talks about the captivity and the exile. That's part of that story too, that Jesus is coming to fulfill. And so this last lesson is really just a good chance for us to gear up and see how Jesus has come to fulfill this story that has been told from Genesis 1. He is a new Adam. He's coming to bring a new creation. And so he wraps up this whole story. And it's beautiful. The Bible ends in Revelation with God saying, I'm with you. My tabernacle's with you, and I'm your God, and you're my people. The covenant story finds its full completion at the kingdom that's coming, but we see it radically inaugurated in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus.